Tara, Rick, and Steve on here also?
Yes, Steve is here. Cameron had a family emergency, so he will not be joining tonight.
Okay, let me do that real quick. Cameron.
To the COVID-19 pandemic, this evening's Design Review Board meeting is being held virtually. Please understand this format will likely present challenges. We ask that you all here with us navigate this unfamiliar, bear with us while you navigate this unfamiliar territory. That being said, we have some tips to help make this process more efficient. Please mute all your mics unless you are speaking. Please state your name before making a statement. Those interested in making a public statement, please follow the directions on the screen. And notice that there is a 30-second delay. We ask all participants be aware. I will now introduce the board members that are present with a roll call. I ask that you state your name and say present. Start with myself. Ian Duncan is present. Mr. Lambert.
Rick Lambert is present.
Mr. McCarthy.
Chris McCarthy present.
Ms. Spencer.
Tara Spencer present.
Mr. O'Neill.
William O'Neill present.
Mr. Magoon.
Steve Magoon present.
And we will note that Cameron Swales is absent. As far as staff, we have Miss Lynette Lenz.
Lynette is present.
We have Miss Brittany Johnson and Mr. Peter Stone with the Planning Department.
Yes, Brittany Johnson present.
Peter Stone present as well.
I will now explain the procedure for tonight's meeting. We will open the hearing by reading the title. The staff will present for 5 minutes. Then the applicant can present for 5 minutes. We will have public comments of up to 3 minutes per speaker. Then we will open up for board questions. We will then close the public comment portion. The board will comment and deliberate, and then the board will make its disposition of request with a motion and a vote. Also must read this disclaimer. A person who may have substantial interest in any decision of the Commercial Design Review Board or any officer, agent, or the appropriate governing body may appeal from any decision of the board to the circuit court in and for the county by filing with the clerk of court a petition in writing setting forth plainly, fully, and distinctly why the decision is contrary to law. The appeal must be filed within 30 days after the affected party or his or her designated agent receives actual notice of the decision of the board. The form of the order shall be the decision of the board as rendered this evening, and the service of the order shall be the same for parties present. For parties who are not present and have requested notice of the order, a copy of the minutes shall be mailed to the party, and they will have 30 days from the receipt of an order to file an appeal. I'd now like to ask for approval of the agenda. May I have a motion and a second? Please state your name before you make the motion.
This is Rick Lambert. I approve make a motion to approve the agenda.
This is Tara Spencer. I second that.
Okay, I guess, do we need to do a roll call vote, or can we just all vote by aye?
You can vote by aye.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes. Next, let's do the approval of the minutes. If there are any additions and corrections, please make a motion and ask for a second.
I'd like to make, this is Steve Magoon. I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes.
This is Rick Lambert. I'll second that motion.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? There are no opposed. Motion passes. We will now open up the board for general public comments. And we'll give them 30 seconds due to the delay, I guess.
We do not have anyone waiting in the lobby.
Okay, then we will move on to general correspondence.
Yes, this is Brittany Johnson with staff. There were no general correspondence.
All right, thank you. I would now like to ask if anyone has a motion of consent. All right, if there are no motions of consent, let's move on to the first item, which would be the Lidl at 1114 Bowman Road. And we will open that up with staff comments, please.
Before staff comments, this is Tara Spencer. I'm recusing myself from this project.
Okay. Sorry, I forgot to ask.
That's all right.
It's my first time.
You're doing great. Keep it up.
Okay, so barring any other recusals, let's open up to staff comments.
Thanks, Ian. This is Peter Stone with Planning. There are no site comments for this agenda item.
All right, architectural comments. The applicant has reduced the height of the proposed parapet to 31 feet 6 inches to match the other existing anchor tenant locations. Staff recommends final approval.
Okay, great. Is there a presentation from the applicant?
Good evening. This is Nathan Schutte with McMillan Pasden Smith. I'm also joined tonight by Mr. Neil Knipe, I'm a resident of the town of Mount Pleasant. This project before you this evening very simply was submitted last month for a conceptual approval. It was approved via consent motion. The project is generally pretty simple upfit of a currently vacant storefront here in the shopping center. Actually, can you go back to the previous slide? Go here. When it has Nordstrom Rack on the end, Dick's, Lidl will take the next position. We're doing some fairly minor improvements to that storefront, more or less bringing it in keeping with the rest of the complex. There's a couple of other modifications to the rear of the site for service and access, but otherwise we're excited to be able to bring a new tenant to this retail center. And if you'd like us to go into any more detail about how or what we're doing with any of the architectural components, please just ask. We're here to answer any questions and hopefully bring this project forward. Thank you.
Okay, if that concludes the applicant's presentation, we will open it up to board questions. Do any of the board members have questions? Do I need to run through the names, y'all?
Yes, please do.
Okay, so Mr. Lambert, do you have any questions?
Well, yes, I have one question. When I looked at the plan, I guess it was the site plan or the building plan. It looks like there's an addition to the rear. Is that correct?
Yes, there is. Neil, would you like to describe what's going on with that?
Yeah. So we should have a plan, I think, as part of this. We're adding some square footage to the back of the building. That's not describing it very well. There we go. So the building expansion there is 5,900 square feet. Most of that is going to be back of house for supporting the grocery store. and as well as a loading dock for deliveries.
This is Rick Lambert again. Yeah, my question when I looked at it, I didn't see on one sheet that I looked at what the width of the road through there. It looked kind of like it was a choke point. But at the narrowest is 22'2". Will delivery trucks have any difficulty getting through that zone behind the building?
They will not. And Casey Warfield, who is a civil engineer for the projects, here in the meeting as well. Casey, if you want to step in.
Yeah, I can speak to that. So as part of our analysis of the site, we ran several truck turn iterations and models, and there's more than sufficient room at the rear of the building, not only for the proposed Lidl project, but also for the existing Dick's, Nordstrom Rack, and other tenants in the center.
Okay, this is Rick Lambert. That concludes my questions. I have no other questions.
Okay, Mr. McCarthy.
Chris McCarthy, no questions.
Okay, Ms. Spencer is recused. Mr. O'Neill.
Rick Lambert asked the same question I was going to have. Two-way tractor trailer traffic with 22.2 is pretty tight, but if the engineer's confident that that's not a problem, then I will stand down.
Okay, Mr. Magoon.
No additional questions. Steve Magoon, no additional questions.
Okay, thank you. That concludes the board questions. Is there anyone from the public who would like to comment? We have a 3-minute time limit per person.
We do not have anyone waiting in the lobby.
Okay, great. So there are no public comments. This closes the public portion of the debate, and now their board members. I'd like to ask each one of you for their comments for discussion and deliberation, and we'll start with Mr. Lambert.
So it appears, Rick Lambert speaking. So it appears that the applicant has met with staff and has met their approval. I'm satisfied. I have no further comments.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Chris McCarthy. A question for Peter and Brittany. Is the curved little island in the rear being extended? Where we said there's a little bit of a choke point between the loading dock. Am I reading this correctly?
Chris, this is Peter Stone with Planning. That is an existing stand-up curb at that pinch point.
At that 31, so is it 31 feet that's existing and we're extending it?
I apologize. I was looking at the 22.2 that Rick was talking about. Where are you referring to?
Right at the loading dock. The ramp for the loading dock. Yeah, right there. That shaded portion of that little island, is that?
So that is also existing stand-up curb. It's removing certain landscaping that it doesn't really have a requirement. It was more of a foundation planting. I believe there's a dumpster going there, Casey?
There is an existing dumpster enclosure there that we're removing as part of being able to provide truck access the back of the DSW building. But you're exactly right. We're just trimming that curb island back to improve the truck turn maneuverability at that portion of the site.
And let me clarify, this is Neil Knight with Neil Smith. Let me clarify, we're not removing the dumpster enclosure, we're actually relocating it next to the building expansion. So we're not losing dumpsters.
Okay.
Thanks, Neil.
Okay, no other question. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Spencer's recused. Mr. O'Neill.
No questions. No, nothing further.
And Mr. Magoon.
No additional questions. Steve Magoon, thank you.
Okay, Ian Duncan has no further questions either. So at this point, I guess it's time for a motion.
Chris McCarthy makes a motion to approve.
Rick Lambert seconds.
Okay, let's do a roll call vote for this one. Please state your name and say yay or nay. Mr. Lambert.
Yay.
Mr. McCarthy.
Yay.
Mr. O'Neill.
Yay.
Mr. Magoon.
Yay.
And Ian Duncan votes yay as well. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. All right, thank you. So next up, we have the 7-Eleven at 512 Johnny Dodds. And we will open this up with staff presentation.
This is Peter Stone with staff. 7-Eleven at 512 Johnny Dodds site comments. A power routing plan will be required along with encroachment permits for vegetation to be in buffers, and that will need to be supplied. If this encroachment is not permitted by the easement holder, then this development standard will need to be supplied outside of the easement, Chapter 136.201 B3. The post-development requirement of 160 inches an acre will need to be planted on site. Payment of remaining inches will not be permitted. This site will be responsible for accounting for 230 inches of canopy trees on site, Chapter 136.225 E5. A parking warrant has been requested and will be required to demonstrate parking calculations, Chapter 136.171. The ADA space fronting the store will require an access aisle. Staff recommends preliminary approval with board and staff comments to be addressed.
Architectural comments. The applicant has met with staff and has been very responsive to staff feedback. The overall massing is appropriate with the offsets and wall plane and footprint. However, the proportions of the facades still require adjustment. The upper cast stone band on the two-story element should be studied. Structure should exhibit a clear base, middle, and top. Staff also suggests that the material selection be studied further. The use of stucco is permitted, however, wood is preferred. The adjacent proposed tiny car wash is utilizing wood as a secondary material. All buildings and structures within a proposed development, including canopies, shall utilize a uniform architectural theme and shall be designed to create a harmonious whole. Staff recommends preliminary approval with all staff and board comments to be addressed.
Okay, thanks, y'all. Now the applicant can have 5 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
My name is Pat Padronis. I'm with Encore Real Estate. We are the developer for this project. Peter, are you able to scroll to sheet C202 just so I can give a quick project overview? I think that's page 6. This project came before the board, well, a phase of this project came before the board last month, both for the master plan and the adjacent Tommy's Car Wash. This site is the 7-Eleven portion, which is 1.45 acres of the larger 4.5 acre tract. The plan for this larger tract is to be subdivided into 3 parcels, the 7-Eleven, the car wash, and a third use to be determined in the future. There's a proposed spine access road that runs down the middle of the project with access both to Johnny Dodds and Mathis Ferry. Just scroll over. Okay, you're already on sheet 201. This is more of a zoomed in plan on the 7-Eleven. You'll see it's a 2-story store per the Boulevard overlay requirements, 6,629 square feet, with about a third of that floor area on the second floor. There are the 8 fueling islands and a total of 51 parking spaces for the 7-Eleven. 21 of those spaces are proposed to be Pervious Pavers. One of the staff comments was regarding parking justification. We did provide a letter, or 7-Eleven provided a letter earlier this week. I don't know if that has made it to the board. Just to highlight a couple points that was from that letter. 7-Eleven wanted to point out the high traffic volume at the store, which I'm sure the board is aware of. Being down the street, there's about 80,000 cars per day, passerby trips on this site. So this is going to be a high volume store for them. This is also their new Roost Chicken concept, which will include a quick service restaurant inside the C-store. They'll be making made from scratch chicken items. They'll also have tables and chairs inside the store I believe for about up to 15, maybe 20 customers inside. Lastly, the second floor, some of that floor space they plan to use for future staff training for local stores as well. And that could have anywhere from 10 to 20 additional personnel on site at various times. If we can move on to the landscaping plan. I think that's sheet L101. On the landscaping plan, the tree mitigation is 232 inches for this site. The plan that we had proposed here shows 156 with 76 to be donated. Staff made the comment they are requiring us to plant all on site. So we will certainly take another stab at this to see if we can squeeze in that additional 76 inches. Two other items just to point out from past projects in the area. We have added the palm trees to the fueling islands. We've also tried to add a small pocket park in the southwest corner of the store with pavers and benches and some enhanced landscaping in that area. Moving on to the building elevations. Very similar to the car wash, we tried to work with similar materials both to the car wash and with the some of the structures in the area like the Walgreens across the street. Primary materials are brick, stucco, some stone banding, and large cornice trim caps. Per staff's comments, we would agree to replace the stucco with a lap siding similar to the car wash, and we'll further study or enhance that second story banding. The canopy and the dumpster enclosures would be finished in the same materials as the building. Aside from that, I'm here to answer any of the questions that the board may have.
Okay, thank you. We will now take questions from the board, and I have a question. My name is Ian Duncan, and how does the applicant plan on putting 76 more inches of tree on this site?
It's going to be dense. I'm not going to lie. We're gonna have to take a stab at it. We might have to increase maybe some of the diameter of some of the trees. I
was just going to recommend probably upsizing the specimen trees rather than trying to overplant.
Yeah.
That's going to be not good.
Yeah, I think some 6-inch caliper might be the only way to get to that mark.
Okay, great. I just wanted to bring that up. Does Mr. Lambert have any questions?
Yes. Well, I was concerned about what this is going to look like from Johnny Dodd's, but just looking at it, and it is very close to the frontage road. But you know, looking at these isometric views, I think it looks attractive. So, no further comments.
Okay, Mr. McCarthy.
Percy, I have a couple of questions. Can you explain to me the relationship of the second floor? Is it you've created an asymmetrical building, and we've gotten away from the more neighborhood homey look, and I personally would like to see something probably with a gable, and then the office is stuck up into the gable. Is that something you would like to address?
A gable is just not a feature that we had seen in any of the surrounding buildings in the area. And again, with the car wash and with the 7-Eleven, or with the Walgreens, excuse me.
Mm-hmm. Can I poll the board on their predilection for this kind of a building?
This is Tara Spencer. I was gonna say, I don't know if a gable would fit here, but I think, Chris, there are some elements like canopies or something maybe that can make it a little less flat.
Hey, Al. Not to interrupt, but we're just doing questions for the applicant now, and we can discuss all this in the next round.
Sounds good.
I'm dropping the gavel on you, Tara.
That's all right. I just felt like I should answer.
Chris, do you have any further questions?
No.
Okay, Ms. Spencer, you have questions for the applicant.
Well, my question was going to be what is going in on the second story. Seems like that's going to be office space. I think that's my only questions at this time.
Yeah, I think the second floor's got planned some additional storage, office space, and the future area for training as well.
Thanks.
Okay, Mr. O'Neill, do you have any questions for the applicant?
Yes, this relates more to the master development, and this was a comment we had last time, but you are proposing a right in, right out on the frontage road, and I would love to see the whatever size fuel truck, WB's 53 or whatever it is, go through that right out. I think you're going to have an issue, and it might need to be a mountable curb or something there, just to.
If if you can go to sheet 202, there's actually a fueling truck shown on there.
So zoom in on it. So I mean, he's pretty on the curb there the whole way. That's usually an indicator to increase the radii.
Yeah, we can certainly, as long as it's within DOT standards, increase that radius a little bit, or maybe even increase the width of that right out.
Yeah, you can work with them to look at a mountable or something. I know 40 feet is typically what they want, but appears the truck is riding the top of the curb kind of from the middle point on. If you go to sheet 23, I looked at the planning plan, but the entry, when you look left, at least on this elevation, and maybe it's not realistic of the number of plantings, the entry is kind of flat and grass. I didn't know, especially on the top section there behind the white car.
Yeah, so these perspective views were not updated with the landscaping when the landscaping plan was updated. So I would encourage you just to view these for the building and fuel canopy components, not as much as the landscaping. Go back to the landscaping plan.
Well, that would be my comment for final, if you could include what it will look like.
Absolutely.
That's a pretty big money shot headed towards the Ravenel Bridge. So I think how it not only looks from a building standpoint, but that kind of large swath of grass there, how are we addressing that? And that is all my questions.
All right, thanks, Mr. O'Neill. How about Mr. Magoon? Any questions for the applicant?
My questions come from, and this might be discussion for later on with Chris and Tara, but we're matching awnings, so the sidewalk frontage is going to match whatever's on Tommy's building, which is right next door. And that's my assumption as far as awnings and all that stuff go. Is that correct? I don't see it on the picture, but.
We do have similar awnings, yes, to the Tommies, but not matched completely.
All right, just similar look, because that is the front door. That's the front door of the 7-Eleven right there on the sidewalk?
Correct. There's two entries. There's both one from the sidewalk on Johnny Dodds as well as internally to the parking area.
Okay. All right, excellent. And then when a big truck comes out on this road right here, right on this right turn, what is his next turn going to be to get to the big highways? I'm trying to picture where this place is. If it goes into Mathis Ferry.
They would go left down Mathis Ferry, I believe, once they got to that signal.
They go left, and Mathis Ferry would then take them to 17.
I think they can. Preston, are you more familiar with the direction on Mathis Ferry? I think they can go east as well around the roundabout. Is there a route to 17 from there? Oh, sorry, I thought our civil was on as well.
I'm sure this can be a discussion. I'm just wondering where that truck's going to go and where they want to go once they come out of here.
This is Rick Lambert speaking. I think if you go straight through that intersection, that takes you down Wingo Way. Is that correct?
Ian Duncan says that is correct.
All right. So now these big trucks are going to be forced to go Wingo Way in order to go get on 17 to cross the bridge.
Wingo Way.
That is correct.
This is Tara Spencer. Wingo Way has a ramp that takes you right onto the bridge.
But it's a pretty narrow road with low-hanging trees. I'm just wondering, and then if they turn left here at the Mathis Ferry, that takes them so they can go the other direction on 17. Correct? Okay.
Yep.
I'm just
Correct.
wondering if they can make that. This might be discussion. It might be just say stupid, but if because they have to get over 2 lanes by the time to get out there in order to get in left-hand turn lane, right? And that's fine. Okay, never mind.
That is a signalized intersection there, and so I don't think they'd have any difficulty getting out.
Okay.
Lambert speaking.
Yeah, I was just wondering if it would make more sense to force the trucks to go out through Mathis Ferry than it does to allowing them to come to Johnny Dodd's.
All right, guys, let's save our discussion for that
Thank
portion of the meeting. Does that conclude your questions for the applicant, Mr. McGoon?
Yes, that completes my questions for the applicant.
Fantastic. Is there anyone from the public who would like to make a comment at this point? Assuming we have no one in
the lobby.
No one's in the lobby, so we have no public comment. We will move on and close the public portion of this meeting and go to board deliberation, which everybody has been waiting for. Let's start with Mr. Lambert, if you would like to make your comments.
Sorry, I was muted. The questions I had have been, answered. I look at staff comments and realize that there are some things that the applicant needs to do to satisfy staff, but I'm satisfied personally, so I'd be willing to approve of it.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Lambert. And just to note, this is for preliminary, not final. Mr. McCarthy, your comments?
Yeah, Chris McCarthy, my comments are in line with what I was saying before. I think this is very utilitarian, institutional looking. Not as much a neighborhood store that you normally expect from 7-Eleven. I would like to see something with a large hip and dormers, perhaps, so their second floor would be up into the roof. That's my comment.
All right, thank you. Ms. Spencer, your comments, please.
This is Tara Spencer. I'm not sure, Chris, I'm sorry. I'm not sure if I agree with the dormer comment, just because of the area that it's in. I'm thinking about the other buildings around here. I do think that it's looking flat, though. I agree with you about the kind of utilitarian look. I think it needs a little more character of some sort. I agree with staff comments about maybe utilizing wood instead of stucco in some of the areas, maybe as shown here above the storefront. I'm also wondering if there's a way to activate that sidewalk at the front door a little bit. I know that there's the public park area on the side of the building, but if we could add maybe a bench or two or something just to, that looks very flat and open. Just doesn't look like the main entrance, or adding some kind of architectural canopy to let you know that there's a front entrance there. I don't feel like there's enough character on this front facade if this is truly the pedestrian front door. The brick looks like a nice color, and that seems fine. I think that's all my comments.
Thanks, Ms. Spencer. I'd like to ask everybody else to mute their mics if they're not speaking, and we'll move on to Mr. O'Neill.
Hey, agree on the flat portions of the building. Comment by Tara. I mentioned a few things earlier in my questions regarding radii and the grass lawn area and seeing how that will look. And those are generally my comments.
All right, thanks. Mr. McGinn.
I have no additional comments.
Okay, Ian Duncan has a couple of comments. I think this looks, I agree. It's completely flat, it's completely utilitarian. The renderings don't match the plan. Like, you've got grass in that median, but it's not going to be grass. And also, yeah, I think this particular view we're looking at just looks pretty atrocious, to be perfectly frank. And I would recommend, deferral. I think they've really missed the mark here. This is not a gateway look for the town of Mount Pleasant. I was just in Cumming, Georgia, and I mean, the freaking Arby's has ledgestone, archways, right? So I think we can do a little better than, flat, faceless, cheap boxes, especially at this really prominent intersection. So that's my comment. Are there any further comments, or does anybody want to make a motion?
Well, let's keep talking, Ian. I don't think we're quite ready yet. I would love to see if there's like an outdoor dining opportunity area, since this is going to have like that chicken component to it. How does that kind of work? And is there like an elevation of it? I don't really see anything, and maybe I'm missing a drawing. The elevation doesn't have that outdoor area. So, if you get some chicken or whatever, can you go outside and eat? And I've looked at some other quick trips, and not to throw out the competition, but they do have outdoor dining opportunities. If you do a quick Google search, some of their gas stations. But
it's a good point. Well, where's the big sign that says Mr. Chicken? Because I'm sure they're going to have one, right? Like, there's already enough 7-Eleven signs. There's got to be the one that says Super Hot Chicken somewhere, right?
Yeah, agree.
I don't know, y'all. To me, I mean, if you turn this into architecture school, you'd get a Tara. You'd get a what? D minus. I mean, it's complete flat boxes.
Yeah.
It's got a roof, so you don't fail. But I mean, I'm just some architectural detail and some mullions. I mean, my God, like something.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it definitely needs more character. I mean, I'm the parapet type roof, but there is a way to add character to the facade to give depth and materiality. And like you said, mullions. I mean, even a little bit of color. I mean, there's a lot of different things they could do with awnings. I just feel like it does look very boxy and flat, and that's definitely not what we want.
So, since this is Steve Magoon, since this is a preliminary, can we give all these notes and have them go back, or do we need to do a deferral?
Well, I'm also a little concerned. Sorry, Steve, it's Ian. I'm a little concerned the renderings don't match the plans. They're like, use your imagination on the landscape, and we're going to add 80 inches of tree somewhere. So that's one thing for me, is it doesn't seem like the drawings represent what's going to go out there.
Yeah, and I really like your point about the super chicken sign. What's that going to do too? But love to see all that. But do we do that at final, or do that now? Because all of those are great points as far as I'm concerned.
Well, and literally, not that I love Cumming, Georgia, but I mean, their DRB requirements were obviously incredibly strict, and all these little chains somehow made it work, right? And if they've got 80,000 trips per day, they can afford to make this thing the nicest 7-Eleven, in South Carolina, right?
I mean, I think even we've reviewed 7-Elevens before in Mount Pleasant, and they definitely were able to incorporate some more low country type aesthetics. And I know that this area has taller buildings, so I think the height of it is fine, but I do agree that this needs to have some character implemented into it and not just be a flat box.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask a staff recommendation. I guess they recommended approval. Is that right? I'm sorry, I'm not looking at all my papers.
Yeah, this is Brittany with staff. So I agree with you all with the comments. Again, in staff comments, I suggested that you restudy. And a lot of times when I say that, I'm hoping that I'm prompting you all to give suggestions, which we have gotten. I think that the applicant can, I will say for this applicant, this is the same developer for the Tupelo location. So as you know, Chris and Tara, we had a subcommittee meeting with them, and they were very responsive to staff feedback. I do believe that the applicant will, take heed to all of the notes that were given and have the opportunity to implement. Again, it's totally within your purview to say, no, I definitely would like it to be deferred. Or if you all approve, know that this, you do have another chance to review the project. So that's definitely within your purview. I'm not going to tell you which way to kind of go with that. As far as I'm concerned, my staff recommendation is already there. But again, I think that you all have given great feedback. With staff comments, with the implementation of wood, I think that could help a lot to kind of soften the facade. I think that's what you're missing, because with all that stone, it starts to look very rectilinear. So I do believe that with some adjustments, they could be moving in the right direction.
Okay, thanks. And I was just another comment. So that adjoining piece between the two boxes with the sign, perhaps that could be a different material and maybe have, a gabled roof or something and satisfy both. And certainly we need to have an entrance with some kind of portico or awning or something to, bring this to a pedestrian scale. So with that said, I guess the staff feels comfortable that we should approve and that we can pick all this up before final. Does everybody feel good about that?
This is Chris McCarthy. I think it's more than materials. I think the massing is a little bit too chunky, too plain. I think they have to go back and look at the massing of this.
I'm sort of with you. I'm kind of like, man, show up with something nice. I mean, my gosh.
Yeah,
right?
really.
And
Yeah,
show drawings that reflect what it's going to be.
We'd be setting a precedent here for plainness, and I don't think that's what we want as our legacy on the board here.
Agreed. And they tipped their hand saying this was such a prominent store that it's not going to be like a low volume store. So they can afford to make this one good. I don't know. I don't want to cause this client any financial problems by delaying, but, I do think you need to submit proper drawings and, try to abide by the town character. I mean, I've been railed numbers of times for not doing that. Yeah.
I think that is certainly fair.
I'd like to, this is Chris McCarthy. I'd like to make a motion to disapprove. I would request, and with the stipulation that the client come back with something a little more tasteful.
So I think you mean a deferral. Is that right, Chris? Not a denial, a deferral. A denial would mean they can't come back for 6 months or whatever.
Yes, sorry. Thank you for the correction.
Okay.
Deferral.
Okay, so would you like to make a formal motion for deferral, or do you guys want to discuss before we do that?
Mr. McCarthy did make a motion. We just need a second.
Okay, sorry. Ian Duncan will second the motion for deferral.
Thank you.
So now we'll have a vote. Mr. Lambert.
Aye.
Mr. McCarthy.
Aye.
Ms. Spencer.
Aye.
Mr. O'Neill.
Aye.
And Mr. McGoon.
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you for deferral. All right, the next item on the agenda is the Regions Bank at 1486 Stuart Ingalls Boulevard. This is for final approval of site landscape and architecture. We will open up with the staff comments.
This is Peter Stone with staff. Regions Bank site comments. The demolition plan should clearly indicate which trees are being proposed for removal with an X. mitigation trees, if planted on site, will need to be clearly indicated on the plan to be a minimum of 4-inch caliper. If desired, this amount may be paid into the tree bank. All parking provided above the minimum requirement shall provide pervious surface. Chapter 136, 171B. Sable palms should be planted into the extended median outside of the coverage of the roof overhang. Substitute the need for bollards, and that references Chapter 136, 310, I1. Staff recommends final approval with board and staff comments to be addressed.
Architectural comments. The applicant has met with staff. The overall form is compliant with the town's architectural guidelines. The form exhibits a clear base, middle, and top. Furthermore, the form utilizes the preferred building materials such as brick, wood, and metal roofing. Staff recommends final approval.
All right, great. Thanks, y'all. Now we'll open it up to the applicant presentation. You have 5 minutes.
This is Mark Naylor. I'm with the Roberts Group. We're architects engineers for Regions Bank. If you could go to page, well, keep going right there. Stop. Sorry. That's the demolition plan. I just want to orient you all. You probably already know, but this is the former Jim and Nick's restaurant. It used to be an Applebee's. We've been working with staff since about November. We took a long look at a renovation of this building, but with the code requirements in terms of 50% of cost and those kind of things, the bank scrapped that idea and agreed to work with the city, with the town, and do a freestanding building that would meet current code in terms of placement, design, and so forth. So everything in the gray there is going to come out and go away, and we will rebuild from there. So I think if you go to the next page, I don't know if it's Peter or who's, okay, there you go. So we've got the bank pulled up within the build lines along 17. It's 2,600 square feet, single story. We do have an attached drive-through canopy with extended islands as requested. Banking is a little bit different now. We do have a deal drawer, a drive-through window, but the other 2 islands are actually ATM machines, which is kind of how it's going these days with banking. One point I want to make is we do have an excess of pervious pavers. Those would be those light gray areas. We've been working with staff on water quality, even though the site's already got its detention covered and all that stuff was done years ago. So instead of just placing the pavers in parking stalls, we've actually got them in areas where we can make the most of them from a water quality standpoint in terms of where the water is going to actually run over them, and we can hold the water in the stone below them. So that's something we'll try to work out with staff. I don't think we have any other problems with any other comments that have been given. This received preliminary approval last month. It was on the consent agenda. We are greatly reducing pervious area. It's going to be a much greener lot when we get done. We have a ton of mature plantings that we're saving. So not to mention bringing up all the buffers to current standards on all sides, because Stewart Ingalls is also a state highway. So we're surrounded on 2 sides, really 3 sides, with buffers that we're going to be providing. So I guess if you want to go to the very end, we've got the rendered elevations of the building, or wherever you might have them in your collection there. There's the black and white. We did provide color as well. And I could share my screen if you want me to show you those really quickly.
They're the last sheets in the plan set.
And the colors you see on the drawings are just where we did revisions, the staff revisions, and we color coded them so they could see what we had done each time. So basically, it's a mixture of 2 different bricks with a water table out of masonry, standing seam metal roof, and cement board siding that we have. So that's kind of the west elevation, the front there. That's what's going to face 17. And you can see our drive-through canopy there in the machines. So we're okay with all the comments except for we'd like to keep those pervious pavers where we can make the most of them for water quality. But other than that, we feel like we can work with staff on everything else. So I'm here for questions. And I also have our project architect and another engineer from the office that's been dealing with all the site things, if you have questions there.
All right, great. Is there anyone from the public who would like to make a comment now? Okay, I screwed that up, but anyway, there's nobody from the public. So now we will ask questions from each board member individually. Mr. Lambert.
Yes, just looking at the site plan, I think I understand there up in the upper corner, that's you're gonna remove, you have some type of a border noted by number 6. That's just concrete curb and gutter, and then pervious pavers and a drain, and then the dashed curb line, that's existing, that's all existing parking. Is that, answer me if I'm correct. I'm just
You're
asking.
correct. I mean, what we were
Okay.
trying to do, we were trying not to disturb any more of the site than we absolutely had to. We're not really doing any new storm sewers, except for the fact that if you look at the handicap stalls, there's an existing inlet that falls right in those accessible stalls, and we want to raise the building up a little, and so that water now is going to run to the new inlet that's marked number 18, but it just comes right back into that same inlet. So we do have a short run of pipe right there. But all the parking along 17 will get demolished. It's too close to the road. So that all becomes a big green belt all the way down.
I see.
17.
And then so there's asphalt pavement, and then these pervious pavers. Can you describe those, please?
Yeah, we're using concrete pavers over, several layers of sand, fabric, and stone. And then there's under drains in those that come back to that, in the case of the first one up there, go back into the inlet at 18. And then down below at the kind of corner of the drive-through there, we have a similar setup, except in that case, we've also provided a rain garden, kind of where you see number 19. There's no curb there, so the water will run across the pavers first. What gets through there will end up in a rain garden that would, hold our volume and then overflow into the existing storm sewer system that's there now. So none of those improvements exist. There is no water quality, there is no any of that, and we're adding all that as a part of our new design.
Okay, thank you. That concludes my questions.
All right, thanks. Mr. McCarthy.
Chris McCarthy, no question.
All right, thank you. Mrs. Spencer, or Miss Spencer, excuse me.
This is Tara Spencer. I have no questions.
Mr. O'Neill.
William O'Neill, have no questions.
And Mr. Magoon.
Steve Magoon, I have no questions.
Okay, I already asked for the public comment, so I think we can skip that and close the public portion of the debate and go to board deliberation. Ian Duncan has no comments. Honestly, I wish that 7-Eleven looked like this thing. We'll move on to Mr. Lambert.
I think it looks really nice, and I don't have any further comments.
Mr. McCarthy.
Chris McCarthy, no comments.
Ms. Spencer.
This is Tara Spencer. I just want to comment. I really like the materials, the way that they've done the brick base and the hardy and the metal roofing. I just wanted to commend them on that. I think it gives it a nice look. So good job. That's all my comments.
All right, thank you. Mr. O'Neill.
This question's for Peter Stone. I know it's comment section, but it just popped in my head. So there's a comment about pervious pavers. Basically, I know that the town code is you can't, if you park over your requirement, you have to put in pervious pavers for those parks. Now, he's integrated pervious pavers as part of his storm drainage system for water quality. Or are you saying that every space above the minimum has to be pervious pavers?
That is literally how the ordinance reads, chapter 16.171. Certainly this merits asking the zoning administrator for his determination.
Right, and I guess the answer will be we got to go get a variance, which the applicant will say, no, I'm not going to get a variance. So going down the road with this, I mean, is there a possibility we could do the pervious pavers for water quality and the spaces?
Sorry, William.
Maybe that.
So that's a question for you asking if you could do the drive aisle and impervious pavers and as well as the parking spaces.
Well, I mean, maybe you ask the zone. Maybe I'm jumping to the conclusion, but you ask the zoning administrator if these can go in place in lieu of parking spaces. I gather that the administrator is going to say that it would require a variance and they have to show a hardship, which they have no hardship. So is the applicant saying that they are willing to do the pervious pavers for water quality, but they're not willing to do them for parking? It's one or the other, or are they willing to concede and do both?
That would be a question for them. We certainly would promote low impact development as using pervious pavers and drive aisles on top of meeting the requirement of the parking spaces. It's just that 171 speaks directly to parking stalls. So that's where I would apply it, but I'm glad to ask.
I agree with you, Peter. I mean, you're applying the code, which is what you live and die by, which is your job. And I'm not saying you're not doing anything wrong. I'm just trying to deduce whether the applicant, this question is for the applicant, whether they, kind of answering my question, if we apply the code, which says you have to put pervious in the spaces that go above the minimum, is the applicant saying that it's one or the other for them? Like, where do they stand on that? Because I think the code is pretty clear.
So this is Rick Lambert. The way I interpret this, when I look at staff comments, Peter has stated what the requirement is and has recommended final approval with staff comments to be addressed, which I would interpret that as that they're going to have to comply with the pervious pavement requirement. That's the way I would interpret.
Well, I think it would be helpful for the board if the applicant just chimed in real quick about that question.
Yeah, so you've hit the nail on the head. We're trying to do both. It seems illogical to us. I mean, the whole point of a pervious paver is to reduce runoff and also, make the water quality better in terms of what runoff you do get. If you get, it'll lessen it. So I guess our argument is we do a lot of water quality design, and normally you don't put them in an area that's not going to get very much water. What we've tried to do is put them in an area where we're going to get the biggest bang for our buck for a better environmental answer on the site, as opposed to, and no offense intended, but just randomly putting in parking stalls. The one thing I'll add, and then I'll stop, is they're expensive. So if we have to double up, we've really added a lot of cost to the project. We were trying to do both. We were trying to meet the intent of, okay, yeah, we've got a few extra parking stalls to meet the bank's needs, but we were also trying to work with the code in terms of providing pervious pavers, and then also double up that requirement with trying to make the drainage folks, Public Works, happier with our final outcome. So you've hit the nail on the head, but it will add a lot of expense to basically be more than doubling up on the pavers. So.
Mr. O'Neill, does that satisfy your questions?
Yes, thank you. I think their hands are tied. They're going to have to do the pervious pavers in the spaces as well as their water quality treatment within the site. So I think that answered it.
I'm with you, and I don't want to hear any more about expensive pavers. This is this is like Nantucket South right now. Anyway, Mr. Magoo, do you have any comments?
I have no comments. Steve Magoo, no comments. Thank you.
Ian Duckett, I do just want to, on a serious note, we probably have one of the highest tax bases in the entire Eastern Seaboard. Pavers, I don't think that's a problem, right? You're going to be fine around here. So I think people need to step up and start building some nice stuff. This is a very nice zip code. Keep it that way. So those are my comments. Do you want to have some deliberation before anybody makes a motion?
Are we making a motion now, Ian? That's what.
I guess so. I mean, I think the building is attractive, and I love the fact that they've even considered, alternative drainage and a rain garden in this climate. So kudos to the applicant. I'm sure they're going to have to do the extra pavers, but guess what? I think this bank can afford it. So that doesn't bother me. And if they can't, then, they can go to James Island, I guess.
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
This is Tara Spencer. I'll second.
Okay. I'm sorry, this is Steve Magoon making the motion.
Steve, can I ask you to make that motion to approve with staff comments?
With staff comments, yes. I'd like to Steve Magoon would like to make a motion to approve with staff comments. Thank you very much.
This is Tara Spencer. I'd like to second that.
Okay, I'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Lambert.
Aye.
And Mr. McCarthy.
Chris McCarthy, aye.
And Ms. Spencer.
Tara Spencer, aye.
Mr. O'Neill.
William O'Neill, aye.
And Mr. McGinn.
Steve Magoon, aye.
Ian Duncan votes aye as well. The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, our final item that was added at the last minute, fast signs, roof mounted sign at 1110 Clarity Road. This is for final approval of site landscape and architecture. We will open it up with staff comments.
Yes, and sorry about that with staff error with the addition of this item here. Let me see here. Sorry. Just a moment. All right, architectural comments. The applicant is seeking approval of a roof-mounted sign. The applicant has proposed two placement options. One option depicts the proposed roof-mounted sign offset to align with an existing door. The second option depicts the proposed sign centered. In the second option, the proposed sign is aligned with an existing wall-mounted sign. The roof-mounted sign and the wall-mounted sign are both within the signage allotment. However, it is preferred that the signage be dispersed to another facade.
Okay, that concludes staff comments. Is the applicant prepared to make their presentation?
Yes, as long as everyone can hear me. This is Janelle Mall with Fast Signs.
Yes. Yes.
So we submitted this permit to ask the DRB to consider us putting the roof, our lighted channel letter sign on our roof versus on the facade. I'm not sure which of you has control over the pictures, but if you could go to the picture that shows the northeast facade, which was the original, or I think I called it the east facade. That's the rear of the building. It faces south, basically.
Do you have a page number?
No.
Okay, thanks.
Peter, I think it's page 6 of 6, maybe.
No, that faces the parking lot, or the parking area rather.
Janelle, do you have the ability to share your screen and what you're looking at?
That's a good question. I don't know how to do that. Is that the open share tray option?
Yes, ma'am. That would give you the ability to share your screen and present as you share.
Okay, just a sec. Bear with me, please.
No problem. All right, great. You can go ahead.
Okay, so this is the sign that we currently have, or the facade that we currently have a permit approval for. And as you can see, since the construction or the interior upfit, it has been continuously worked on, I should say, or still not finished. They've added a lot of additional piping, and that's where our main electric feeds into the building. And we just think that, or we hope that, and we'll see if you agree, that the sign being on this side would not look as good as having the sign on the roof, either centered or offset over the left-hand entry door. And we feel that it would also increase the visibility from the road to have what is our lighted channel letter sign on the rooftop, either centered or even more so if it was offset to the left, because of the way that the building is angled towards frontage and Johnny Dodds. And of course, having it at a higher elevation, I think, would increase the visibility. So that is why we have proposed this alternate placement of the sign. And if you have any questions, please let me know.
Okay, thank you. Let's open it up to staff questions. Or I'm sorry, is there anyone from the public? Or no, I was right. Staff questions. Mr. Lambert. You are still on mute, Mr. Lambert.
Sorry about that. Lambert here. So the view that we saw with all the pipes and such, it faces like the E-Sig of Charleston, Stuckey Brothers Furniture, that shopping center.
Yes, basically, yes, sir.
Yeah. So it is visible from the parking lot, I presume. So, and then, but that, and you said an alternate signage location. Were you ever contemplating putting a sign on the end of the building?
Yes, we currently have an approved permit to put the sign on this side of the building.
On the end of the building.
Correct. Yes, because that's really the side of the building that has, I mean, it's not, obviously it's not parallel with the road, but it has the most exposure to the road.
From the yeah, it has exposure to the parking lot of Stuckey's Furniture and all that. So.
And you can actually see it from Johnny Dodds and from frontage.
Yeah, and this this building actually is quite far away from the frontage road. It's behind another building. So
that's correct. It's behind Dr. Shelbourne's office.
Now, so let me understand. When I look at the front of the building, and I see a roof-mounted sign, and then I see a sign on the wall.
Correct.
Are you saying that this is either or are you proposing two, a roof-mounted and a wall-mounted sign?
Two. We currently have approval for both signs, but again, not in this configuration. The exterior wall-mounted sign is not electrified, so that's just a flat vinyl sign, and then the rooftop mounted sign, or the other sign rather, is a channel letter sign which is illuminated.
I see. Okay, I have no further questions.
All right, thank you. Mr. McCarthy.
Is the height of the sign indicative of where it's really going, or would it go all the way up on the ridge?
It is indicative of where it was going. Per the sign code, the top of the sign cannot extend past the peak of the roof.
Oh, right. Okay. Okay, no other questions.
All right, Ms. Spencer.
This is Tara Spencer. I have no questions.
Mr. O'Neill.
Just to confirm, what's shown on the screen is what the applicant's preferred option?
Actually, no. We actually had wanted to get their design review board's opinion on that. Actually, we feel that the other option that I can move to. Give me a sec. This option would give us better visibility just because that's the side of the building that, again, is on that in the area that is visible to both frontage and to Johnny Dodds. However, we actually just wanted to get your opinion, actually, to see if you guys had a preference either way. We've heard pros and cons regarding each of the placements. Having one sign stacked upon another sign versus the kind of asymmetry of this option. So each has pros and cons.
Okay, Mr. O'Neill, does that conclude your question period?
It does. Thank you.
All right, Mr. McGinn.
Yes, sorry, Steve Magoon. I was on mute. Apologize. Okay, so we're talking about sign either left top or straight above the Fast Signs pictures. We're not talking about any signs on the end of the building where the pipes are?
Correct. That was the original permitted placement. And of course, obviously, if this doesn't get approved, that's where we're going to end up putting it.
But it wouldn't be a roof sign, it would be a facade sign.
Correct. It's the same sign. It's just there. It's the lighted version of what's basically already there. Yeah.
But because it can't go above the peak, it would have to be a facade sign if you put it on the end. And you don't want it on the end. Is that what I'm hearing?
We just think that we would get more visibility with it on the roof. And there's going to be some, obviously, just it's very busy over on that end as it is.
Okay.
Yeah, we just think it would be a better look.
So you want our opinion on whether it should be stacked on top of this one in the center or if it should be off to the left?
Well, yeah, yes, actually.
All right. I think it looks kind of silly stacked, so I would vote for off to the left, but okay, I have no more questions.
Okay, thank you. And my only question, Ian Duncan, is: do you think it's ironic that we're talking about a sign for a sign store?
Yeah, it's pretty funny, isn't it?
It is funny. Okay, so moving on.
Okay, Captain Obvious.
Shall we open the comment to anyone from the public? Please, 3 minutes per person.
We do not have anyone waiting in the lobby.
All right, thank you. So that will close the public portion of the meeting and we will go on to board deliberation. I'm going to ask each board member for their comments and then we will ask for a motion and discussion. I'll go ahead. They're a sign store. They can have their sign wherever they want. Mr. Lambert.
Well, when I look at the the view that we're looking at on the screen right now, and I see one sign stacked on another sign. It seems rather redundant. It seems like, one sign would do facing that direction. It just, I don't like a roof mounted sign on either position. And I think it would be a better value to them to put a sign on the end of the building to maybe cover up some of those nasty pipes with some shrubbery, and up in the gable end, put an illuminated sign on that end and hope to get some more visibility from Johnny Dodds or from the shopping center. That's my thought. Brittany, can you weigh in on, would that be an acceptable with the sign ordinance to put an illuminated sign above the block, I guess, above the wall in the gable end region of the building?
Yeah, so sign ban is within your purview. On this particular building, if the signs are at the same height on the facade, that would kind of be considered the sign ban. It's definitely within your purview on, placement. Again, as the applicant said, with what you would need to do is, if you're not going to allow the roof mounted sign, then you need to say it needs to be placed on the facade. Really what is going to be your decision is if you allow the roof mounted sign. And again, if you say for the end facade, that would be an acceptable location in the gable portion.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Mr. Lambert. Mr. McCarthy.
I think the left-hand side for the roof sign is probably better than stacking one over the other. And as if I'm hearing correctly, I think the client feels this is a better exposure than the gable end. So I'm okay with the left-hand side.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Spencer.
This is Tara Spencer. I agree with Chris. I like the left-hand mounted sign. I think it looks nicer than the two signs stacked on top of each other. And I think you'll still be, because it will be mounted to the roof, you'll still be able to see it from the same frontage road and parking lot that we were talking about, where the original sign was going to be seen from. So I say go with this option.
All right, thank you. Mr. O'Neill.
Asymmetric is my option, my chosen option.
Okay, thank you. Mr. McGinn.
As opinions go, I like this one off to the left, and I think we should motion to approve that they can get a roof sign, since that's the motion. But I mean, since that's the decision, so I don't know if that's an official. I think I'm popping the gun too soon. So.
Okay, so I already commented a little bit, but I just want to say this is a very low visibility area. It's a very small building. I'm not saying we should approve roof-mounted light-up signs for anyone on Earth except for this project. And that said, if somebody would like to make a motion, and a second.
This is Tara Spencer. I make a motion to approve the version that is asymmetrical with the roof-mounted sign on the left.
This is Chris McCarthy. I second the motion.
All right, so let's vote. Mr. Lambert.
Lambert here, aye.
Mr. McCarthy.
Chris McCarthy, aye.
Ms. Spencer.
Tara Spencer, aye.
Mr. O'Neill.
William O'Neill, aye.
And Mr. McGinn.
Steve McGoon, aye.
All right, Ian Duncan votes aye as well. It's unanimous, passes. And that concludes our agenda for the night. Thanks, everybody. Brittany, is there anything else I need to do before adjournment?
Yes, we need a motion for adjournment. That would be the last step there.
Okay.
Steve McGoon, I'd like to make a motion for adjournment for tonight's meeting.
Rick Lambert, I second.
Fantastic. Let's have a vote.
A group aye?
Yeah, I think a group aye will do it on this one, yeah?
1, 2, 3, aye.
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 All those opposed? All right, nobody is opposed. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank
Thank you
you.
all. Thank you all. Wonderful job per usual.
Well done,
All
Ian.
right, thanks, everybody.
Good job, Ian.
Thanks.
Yeah, good job, Ian.
Okay, good night.
Bye.